YouTube, it's Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters. Today we're going to be taking a look at two of the most common external drum triggers that you can buy on the market today for converting acoustic drums to electronic drums or just making an acoustic and electric drum hybrid. And the two that I chose to take a look at today are the Roland RT30HR, which costs about $90, anywhere between $80 to $90 depending on where you get it, sometimes even $100, and the Ddrum Pro dual zone snare trigger, which costs about $60. So basically what I did is I hooked both of these up to my kit. I have the Ddrum on my snare drum, and then I have the Roland on my floor tom, and both of them are dual zone, so I could do rim shots as well as center drum shots, and I just test them out. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of playing first, of me playing the two different triggers, then I'll talk about my thoughts of both. So here we go. Alright, so those are the two triggers in action, and as far as I could tell, they're pretty much equal as far as performance goes. I really can't tell the difference. Triggering seems to be equally as accurate on both. There's no crosstalk whatsoever between the rims and the center of the drum, and the sensitivity is basically about equal on both. So I think as far as performance goes, they're pretty much equal. Now, there are a couple of things you may want to consider, one being the price. The Roland is going to cost you a little bit more, or about 30 bucks more actually, than the Ddrum. And the Ddrum is made out of basically a solid metal construction, whereas the Roland has some plastic parts on it. So that's something to consider as well. Although I think the design of the Roland is probably a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than the Ddrum because it just doesn't stand out so much on your drum set if you want to kind of have discrete triggering while you're playing live or something like that. You don't want this giant red box sticking out on your drums. Maybe you'll kind of like the Roland one a little bit more as far as that goes. But if I were to recommend one, I probably would go with the Ddrum, just because I think the performance is just as good and you're going to save yourself 30 bucks. Now, one huge drawback though of the Ddrum one, and a lot of people say this, and I don't quite understand why Ddrum continues to insist on putting XLR connections on their acoustic drum triggers. There's no real advantage to this. It doesn't really improve the sound or the reliability at all. All it does is requires you to purchase an adapter to be able to hook up pretty much every single drum module. Even the drum modules that Ddrum themselves make don't have XLR connections on them. So it's just a little bit strange that they do that, but fortunately there is a D'Addario adapter that you can buy that only costs about $3 or $4 that I found on Amazon, and there'll be links to all this stuff down below. And that basically has an XLR, female XLR on one end, and a female 1/4 inch on the other end, so you could just plug your 1/4 inch cable into that and then plug the other end right into the trigger, and it really doesn't take more than a couple dollars to convert it. However, it kind of sticks out, you know, it's kind of big and kind of silly looking, But if you wanted to get around that, you could actually just plug a regular old mic cable into the XLR input of the Ddrum trigger, and then plug the adapter into that, and then plug your other cable into that adapter. So again, it's a lot of needless cabling where it could be easily solved if they just put a regular 1/4 inch on this thing, like pretty much every other drum trigger manufacturer out there. But it's kind of Ddrum's thing, I guess, and they've been doing it for a long time, so that's just how they do it. Anyway, I also purchased one of the Ddrum Pro triggers for my kick drum now too, and I'm really happy with the performance of that as well. Before that, I had a Ddrum Red Shot trigger, which worked pretty well, but sometimes I would get some double triggering and some mistriggering on that because it's kind of a little less stable as far as the like the way that it clamps onto the drum. But the Pro trigger really clamps on there good, and I don't get any mistriggering or double triggering on that on my bass drum either. So again, the Ddrum triggers I think work really, really well, but the only problem being the XLR output. And like I said, everybody knows about this, everybody talks about it. And Ddrum, if you watch this video, you should make a Pro trigger that just has a 1/4 inch output on it. And I think you would sell a lot more of these things, actually. Anyway, that's my take on the two triggers. I think they're both really, really good. And if you want to convert acoustic to electric drums and you just want them to trigger accurately, either one of these will work great. If you're a Roland fan, then you might want to pick up the Roland ones. And I should mention, too, that I had to change a couple settings in my module for both triggers, even though the TD17 has a preset for the RT30 triggers, the Roland RT30 triggers. I still had to adjust it a little bit. It wasn't really to my liking, but that's not really what this video is about. But generally speaking, pretty much every trigger you plug into your module, you're going to have to make some fine-tuning adjustments to make it, trigger the way that you want to. Not everybody likes the same sensitivity settings and things like that. But anyway, both of them work great, and I recommend both, really. If you want to save a little bit of money, then get the Ddrum. If you don't want to mess with the adapters or anything like that, then get the Rolands. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload new content. And check out my links down below. You can check out the music that I make. It's all on Spotify and Apple Music. And thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.